Welcome to Week 3 of Community Relations Evolution, the genesis of community policing. Please see Canvas for the assignments, weekly announcements, and weekly overview. Our learning objectives for this week will include 1.1, the evolution and development of professional policing from its early use of volunteers in England to its modern-day practices in the United States. 1.2, the characteristics of each of the three eras, political, professional, and community, of policing in the United States. 1.3, the foundations and strategies of both community policing and problem-oriented policing to include contributions of the federal government. Explain the history and evolution of multiculturalism in the United States and the challenges to the criminal justice system resulting from a multicultural society. SLO number 1. Explain the history and evolution of multiculturalism in the United States. 1.4 How empirical studies resulted in major changes in police and problem-oriented policing to include contributions of the federal government. 1.5 How to distinguish the three generations of community policing and problem-solving. 1.6 The contributions of community policing and problem-solving to Homeland Security. 1.7 How, when viewing the entire history of policing, it may be said to have come full circle in its contemporary emphasis on community. The concept of community policing is not altogether new. Community policing and problem-solving policing are a collection of related ideas. See the movie Hot Fuzz Clip 0525. British contributions. Henry Fielding became London's Chief Magistrate of Bow Street in 1748, wanted reform to the severe criminal code thief-takers, which later evolved to the Bow Street Runners, pursued criminals Sir Robert Peel in 1829, passed a bill in Parliament, which created Metropolitan Police Act, stressed prevention of crime, officers wore uniforms, carried rattles and batons, and had identifying numbers. Peel's Principles of Policing. Basic mission to prevent crime and disorder. Police need public approval and respect. Police need to secure cooperation of the public to observe the law. As the degree of cooperation diminishes, proportionately, the necessity for the use of force increases. Police must demonstrate absolute impartial service to the law. Peel's Principles of Policing 2. 6. Police use of forces should only be as necessary to secure the observance of the law or to restore order. Concept: the police are the public and the public are the police. 8. Police are not to judge guilt or punish the guilty. The test of police efficiency is the absence of crime and disorder. Policing in America, the political era. See the clip in Canvas, Full-Time Professional Policing in the U.S., commonly said to be New York in 1844, might consider slave patrols in the South as a form of policing. South Carolina in 1704 became the legal mechanism for social control. Early beginnings, the New York model, industrialization in the U.S., 1840s, political era of policing. Police officers were placed under the control of the city government, and politicians selected based on political patronage and rewards for friends, not based on best candidates. Reciprocal relationship between police and politicians. By 1880, every major American city had a police force based on Peel's model, pioneered in New York City. From the east to the Wild West civil disorder swept the nation from 1840s to the 1870s, riots caused by ethnic and racial conflicts, economic disorder, and public outrage. Westerners established peace by private citizens, businessmen, vigilante committees, and town police officers. U.S. Marshals, 1789, enforced federal laws. Sheriffs became important but spent a lot of time collecting taxes, inspecting cattle brands, maintaining the jails, and serving civil papers. Politics and corruption. Police still worked closely with politicians in the early 1900s, did lead to police corruption. Police departments were involved in crime prevention, order maintenance, and social services. Police were decentralized and cities were divided into precincts, encouraged foot patrol, lack of organizational control, and increase of curbside justice. Officers were usually the same ethnic as the dominant groups in a particular neighborhood. Police were integrated into neighborhoods, resulted in discrimination. Emergence of professionalism. 19th century police were a political operative. Little job security salaries were determined by local political factors. Primitive communication technology. Policy was influenced by political and social mores of neighborhoods. Police behavior was influenced by interactions between the individual officer and the individual citizen. Problem of police-community relations. The professional era movement toward reform ideas emerged in response to corruption and the politicized state of the police ideas of reform for police. Profession committed to public service improvement through scientific techniques of crime detection. More of a social work role to reform society by preventing crime and keeping people out of the justice system. These ideas were tied to the rehabilitative ideal in corrections. New developments and calls for reform. 1. Important developments, body of literature. Improvements in areas of testing and training. Formal schools were developed. International Association of Chiefs of Police, IACP, August Vollmer, pioneer of police professionalism, 1905 to 1932. Police should function as social workers and do more than make arrests. Police should actively prevent crime. New developments and calls for reform. 2. Other reformers continued to reject any political involvement by the police, seeking autonomous agencies, focused on becoming law enforcement agencies, sole goal of controlling crime. Frederick Taylor, emphasis on production and unity of control through a hierarchical pyramid, aided in routinized and standardized police work. Enforcement of laws and arrest discretion was limited. Special units were created to specific problems. Crime commissions and early police studies. 1 Wickersham Commission 1931, first national study of crime and criminal justice, recommended corrupting influence of politics be removed from policing, police chief executives be selected on merit, patrol officers be tested and meet physical standards, police salaries and working conditions be decent, policewomen be used in juvenile and female cases. Crime commissions and early police studies. 2. Important changes to policing, advent of the automobile and its accompanying radio, expanded geographical beats, telephones and two-way radios placed higher demands on police prohibition, bloody wave of radical violence in American cities, rise and defeat of police unionism and strikes. Crime commissions and early police studies. 3 1930s OW. Wilson, leading authority on police administration. Took guidance from J. Edgar Hoover and FBI police should be crime fighters, raised eligibility and training standards of recruits. Reduction of social work in policing. The policewomen's movement was also reduced. Relationships between police and citizens were no longer necessary. Professional crime fighter, emphasis on efficiency and control. 1. Police reform focusing on efficiency and control continued from the 1940s through the early 1960s. Administrators continued in controlling rank-and-file officers. Many problems of racial unrest and an unclear definition of the police role remained. Policing began to develop its own sense of professional autonomy. Policing as a career return of police unions. Professional crime fighter, emphasis on efficiency and control. 2. Professional model demanded an impartial law enforcer related to citizens in professionally neutral and distant terms. Citizens were relatively passive in crime control, limited to calling the police and serving as witnesses. Need for rapid response to calls for service, CFS. Carrying and use of firearms. Case approach. Officers were judged by the number of arrests or miles they drove. crime rate was the primary indicator of police effectiveness.